Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, with the season 3 update, we got a decent amount of weapon tuning, especially to some of these top ranged weapons that aren't just snipers, right? We saw some changes to things like the XM4, the Vargo, the Bren, so on and so forth. And with that today, I wanted to take a look at the top TTK weapons over range and really figure out what is the go-to weapon you should probably be using right now on Caldera for long range if you're looking to have that optimal TTK and ideally take out enemies as quickly as possible when you're landing your shots. So as we go through it all today, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. Also, right now my G Fuel discount code WhosImmortal is boosted to get you 30% off your entire order. So if you want to grab a new tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, or anything else on the G Fuel site, code WhosImmortal has you covered. So first things first, we are here on True Game Data. As always, shout out to Tony for putting in the work and getting all this information for us. This is all already updated with all the season 3 patch notes. So everything we got today is accurate per the season 3 update, which is crazy. Shout out Tony, man. He is a beast when it comes to this. And we are, like I said, looking at Caldera here. Obviously, things are a different story on Rebirth, where there's a lot more stuff that is viable. Caldera, though, is very specific because the extra 2 to 3 to 4 shots to kill per weapon depending on any given weapon's damage. And we're looking at combination shots because while all this is great, we can see this gun has a great headshot multiplier. Combination shots are the most accurate way to really see if a weapon has a good overall TTK. If something has a great TTK to the head but terrible neck and chest and stomach shots, it's probably not going to be the greatest weapon in the world. So a few of the guns we're looking at here: the CR56 AMAX, surprisingly, a lone MW weapon. The XM4, the Cold War AK, the Vargo, we all know those are great ranged weapons for Cold War and some that have been very dominant over the past couple of seasons. And of course, the Bren. And I actually wanted to look at two versions of the Bren, one with the Scepter barrel and one with the Royal barrel. Obviously, as we know, the Royal barrel has been that main one that a lot of players have been using for a while. Also, we're using the 100 round mags because the 40 Sakura, those really aren't worth using and haven't been for quite some time. If you're going for an optimal Bren setup, you're using the MX silencer, then either the Scepter or the Royal barrel and the 100 round mags. So obviously, this got a nerf. The Bren got a nerf with the Season 3 update. The Vargo got nerfed. The XM4 got nerfed. The AMAX and the Cold War AK did not, which is particularly interesting because if we look at our chart here, you'll notice some interesting stuff, I would say. So first and foremost, let's look at the Bren. The light blue and the pink lines here, they have nearly an identical TTK up through about 50 meters here. Then you can see the Scepter barrel actually drops off first, and then the Royal barrel drops off about 15 meters later, and they have roughly the same TTK, essentially over range all the way through about 100 meters or so. So the Bren up close, now the worst TTK through the first at least 33 meters, depending on the gun. And then it's really not all that competitive with some other options here. It's competitive with some, obviously, but then it drops off and it's really just not there over range, which is particularly surprising. Clearly, the Bren nerf has done its job. It's still not the hardest gun to use in the world. It's got more horizontal recoil, but this nerf with Season 3, the 5th nerf that the Bren has gotten, seems to have finally knocked it out of that top spot where it is just almost unbeatable. Clearly, this graph shows the Bren is in fact mortal and can be defeated, right? So the Bren, to me, definitely not in the conversation of top TTK weapons. Another interesting thing here that I just now noticed is the Vargo. I mean, it's solid through the first 38 meters, but then it does drop off pretty severely over range. It's still right there with the Bren and obviously a lot easier to use than the Bren, so I'd absolutely be using it over it every single day of the week. But for something that was so close to the AK and the XM4 for a while, it is interesting that it's dropped off like this. Now, the XM4 we can see also drops off really early. It's the first gun to drop off here at that 33 meter mark. It's got the 3rd best TTK up close though within those first 33 meters, but that drop off not nearly as severe as some of these other ones with the Vargo and with the Bren options. So I don't think the Vargo or the XM4 are bad options here whatsoever, especially because they are very easy to use with their general control. And when you look at this, yes, they have worse TTKs than the AK, than the AMAX. We'll get to those in just a moment, but this is still a sub 1 second TTK all the way up until about 100 meters, which is very, very good for 300 health. So yes, while they are looking slower than some options here, they're still top options. These are still 5 of the best guns in the game right now, right? But when it comes down to it, the best TTKs over range is surprisingly between the Cold War AK and the AMAX, which is still standing the test of time and just dominating. You can see through the first 36 meters, the AMAX has the best combination TTK. The AK is right behind it and it takes over for a few meters, but then it drops off and it's the second best over range. The AMAX then continues on to be dominant over range, which I still think is so surprising. We talked about the AMAX a while ago and how it had a top TTK, and even after these nerfs and as it was not adjusted surprisingly in the Season 3 update, it still stands as that king long-range rifle or ranged option in the game right now. So that said, when you're building out the AMAX, how do you want to go about it? Obviously, it's an MW gun. We've talked about it for years at this point, so we know the basics. Monolithic suppressor, Zodiac barrel because it's the largest option here, helping out with the range, the velocity, and the control. Obviously, something you got to take note of when you're talking about the AMAX versus the Vargo or the XM4, it's got noticeably more visual bounce. Its recoil pattern is not going to be as simple. Same deal with the AK. It's got some harsher recoil, but it's got the better TTK. So a thing, while we have that chart, which is great, which shows us if you're landing every shot, the AMAX is clearly the winner. Are you going to land more shots with a Vargo versus an AK versus an AMAX? If it's a yes, then that Vargo TTK becomes a lot closer to the AMAXs and the AKs over range. Regardless though, monolithic suppressor, Zodiac barrel, we want to go for the 3x optic as well. Go ahead and throw on the T-pose reticle for that. We definitely have to run the 45 round mags, which is a disadvantage that the AMAX has versus all those other guns. They can all have 60 plus rounds. The AMAX cannot, so that's another factor in this as well. And then when it comes down to the final attachment, it depends on how good you are with this gun. I think the AMAX is at its absolute best if you're using a tac laser on here because you get a faster ADS, better aiming stability. It's a more aggressive weapon here and you can really fly and fry with that. But you'll lose the control factor of running the commando foregrip. And if you're playing on console where the recoil is a lot worse visually, and obviously ADFOV, or if you're just not comfortable with the AMAX's recoil completely, commando foregrip is the better choice here. Go ahead and drop the tac laser and run that instead. Both are great choices. It just depends on your skill level with the weapon. But when it comes down to it, in Season 3 of Warzone, the Modern Warfare AMAX is currently the king for long-range fights if you can master the weapon. With that being said, that is going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in Call of Duty. News, updates, loadouts, tips, you're going to find it all right here. So feel free to subscribe. That way you can always stay up to date. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.